Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. This is Sree Iyer and we have with us Sridhar C. We have some sensational breaking news. Let's first welcome Sridhar C. and please like this video. You're going to love what we are going to share with you right away. Sridhar C. Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you, sir?
Namaskar. Good morning to you. Good evening to you, wherever you are. Wonderful to be back on Sunday evening, Sriji, or Sunday morning.
Thank you, sir. And viewers, we have been, Sridhar ji mostly, and I just asking him and egging him, trying to figure out why this sudden escalation in tariffs. Was there something else that is at play? And believe you me, here is a new alternative narrative that is emerging. And this narrative has legs because we're going to show you what this failed marshal has said in United States today in Florida. First, let me set the stage for Sridhar ji to explain what he thinks happened. Sir, over to you.
Well, I think that, it's a fantastic kind of context that you have set. And as we say, it's a hot breaking news. Going back in time, and it's fairly well known now that Munir and Michael Kurilla, who is the head of Centacom, has had a strong relationship. Even in the Senate hearings, he has indicated that Pakistan has played an important and critical role in avenging some of the Al-Qaeda uprisings during the Afghan withdrawal or even during the US occupation. So therefore, there's a long-standing history of relationship between the retiring general and the current field marshal of Pakistan. So you're all very familiar with the famous kind of incident where Trump basically said, hey, I call for truce in reciprocal gesture for trade. And, I'm responsible for bringing about the truce between India and Pakistan and avoiding potentially a nuclear attack. Now, and then which India has stoutly denied, and India has stated, no, we got a call from Director General of Operations, DGO, and the two Director Generals spoke, and then, we brought the war to a pause. Now, is that the case? Not sure, because leading up to that position, which is India had taken out, which is acknowledged by the chief of the Indian Air Force, taken out quite a few F-16s and half the hangar, which had been taken out where the F-16s were placed, which caused panic. And what did Mr. Munir do? He called in Mr. Kurilla to probably ask for some favor to see how do you kind of stall. Then Kurilla's boss is 𝗥𝗡𝗙. 𝗥𝗡𝗙 basically said, okay, I'll put the message to Trump. And then what happens is that they used, because they knew that Modi was not going to take the call or Modi is not going to accede. So they went round the route and said, oh, now we'll use DGO and use that vehicle to stall it. When it happened, that's when, Trump took credit. He thought that it was all his kind of game plan, which resulted in stalling, far from the truth. But he didn't stop at that. Munir gave himself a field marshal kind of title. And then, with all the badges and wings, he turns up in White House. Who is responsible for that? Is that Sajid Tarar? Is it Adnan Azad? Or is it, what's the other names, Sriji?
There's a whole slew of 6 names. All ex-ISI connected people.
Yes, and also LET connected,
yes.
Right? So
yes.
Some of them are, not all of them.
Ismail Roger, Hamza Yusuf.
Ismail Roger, go back and check. Then, what's his name? The other guy's name. I'll come in a minute.
Keith Schiller.
No. Sheikh Hamza Yousaf. And then Keith Schiller is the advisor for President Trump. And then they've used him to construct this trade narrative. And then, of course, the Pakistan Deputy Prime Minister went in and, made a hoopla and basically said, we need to. So they stirred up enough pot, leveraging the reach of Munir and Kurilla's connection into the Senate as well as into President Trump. He is very well liked by the current Department of Defense and former Chief of Forces, David O'Malley. So all of them, have a very favorable positions. When you look at the nucleus of influence that 𝗏𝗏𝗏 has around Iran, Israel, Afghanistan, and some of the stuff that's going on in the Gaza. And, this Munir played his cards extremely well in terms of saying, he knows all of those areas and, he has influence, which is what prompted at that point of time Trump to make the statement, hey, these guys our discussions with Mr. Munir is around how he can help us on the Iranian side. So it's a lot of, ill information or information was used to their advantage. Now we have gone one step further. And today or over the weekend, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 has issued a statement from Florida, where he was at a funded dinner where he had gone to participate in the retiring ceremony of 𝗏𝗏𝗏.
I think you meant Asim Munir has made a statement in the retirement dinner of 𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Yeah, Asif Munir has made a statement at the private dinner that was organized by Adnan Azad. And what's the statement that he has made? The statement he has made is, he can nuke and India, and he can affect half of the world's population as a result. And he also has said that they have built a bridge on Indus, and we are waiting for that. We can also nuke those bridges. This is the type of statement that is coming from the US soil against a third nation. Where does this come from? This comes from this belligerence, and enough fake channels have revved up the emotions of the Indians, and Indians are all kind of, going gaga on social channels. Let's kind of teach Trump a lesson. Let's kind of teach Trump a lesson. But teaching Trump a lesson is not going to help India's cause when it is being revved up, by the anti-Indian forces acting within the walls of White House and within the walls of appropriate states in United States, having gone to attend the retirement ceremony of the CENTCOM head. Remember, going back to 2016 to 2020, the same CENTCOM did a deal with India. That deal probably has not been nullified as yet, where you have Indian Army liaison officers working closely with CENTCOM, because the regions involved is not only Middle East and parts of South Asia and Central Asia, but also potential overlay into South China Sea as part of the Quad. But all of that thing is now watershed because of this confusing and chaotic stuff, which has resulted in these tariff increases. And obviously their frustrations are vented primarily coming from Lindsey Graham in the Senate on Russia and Russian oil. So very well played cards and very interesting stories emanating from a losing general who claims he's a field marshal and or anointed himself as a field marshal, not claims, anointed himself as a field marshal, and issuing statement from within the shores of United States. Sriji?
Sir, there is a saying in Tamil, and I'll try and find the equivalent in English. Soriyan kudumi summa adadu. What that means is, these are motivated characters, and when they say something, it is with an intent to incite. So you saw what happened a few days before Pahalgam. This rascal said in Pakistan that Hindus and Muslims are totally different. You bloody fool, go and read your history. You are probably a Rajput or a Jatt. I don't know which one. Either way, you are messed up for sure. Anyway, sir, let's get back to we are connecting the dots here, right? So Asim Munir's closeness to 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is known. But do you think Asim Munir has that much influence to tell Trump that, look, whatever it is that you want to do with India, I can do better and you don't need to do a deal? I mean, basically, is Trump pushing India away from the US? Do you think he had that much clout, sir?
Well, look, I think that you can create enough enough trouble, which in the press conference on Friday night, if you have listened to the press conference, Trump was asked the question, why you are singling out India, okay,
Correct.
for the Russian oil imports when you have Europe, even United States and China, who buys 40% of its energy requirements from Russia. Why they're not been why they've not been targeted and given the penalties? Then he issued a statement, which is to say, it's only 8 hours. Okay, we picked India. Well, wait for the other tariffs to kind of be announced. Wait for the other tariffs to be announced, and we haven't kind of concluded. Wait for the others to be announced. This was his kind of statement. Okay. Now, lot of anti-rev up is going on across the social media channels. It is a fact of life, right? It's a fact of life. I mean, something we have to also recognize, whether Indian negotiators, people dealing with the US, did they misread or did they misinterpret the signals in terms of the negotiations? Because we went from almost deal done to today's kind of situation. Somebody put this data, which is in front of Trump. Look, 1.7% of India's oil was taken from Russia in 2020, and 4.6% was taken from United States of its needs, imported. In FY25, 35% of the oil, 35% of the oil is imported while preserving, 4.6, 4.8%. This 35%, when did this happen? This happened during the period when Putin invaded Ukraine, and whether India inadvertently or intentionally funded Russia during the most crucial time when there was a ban. Go back to the time oil prices has shot up quite dramatically. India negotiated a $60 barrel cap and imported, and some of the Russian oil was getting distilled and refined and being imported to some of the countries, and that also got eventually blocked. But the story is that the data speaks for itself. Whether the data was used by people who are anti-India and revved up Trump, and Trump is a fuse. He can kind of go this way, that way. And this is what resulted in people like Jaishankar and External Affairs Minister, Honorable Minister Jaishankar, and so on, saying, no, Russia has been exporting oil to you and to Europe. But what Trump is saying is, yeah, they were, but before Ukraine invasion. But during Ukraine invasion, when Russia was starved, did you guys come up with a strategic deal to make sure Russia is funded and Russia has liquidity in terms of expanding for your own needs? Now, this is where the things have gone astray in conjunction with this embarrassment of Trump not, Modi saying, I did not speak with Trump, or Trump did not tell me to do ceasefire, I did not listen. So the whole thing went haywire. Up until that point of time, India-US tariffs was approaching 15% or less, and India was negotiating for the most preferred status and to be on a 10 to 12% tariff rate. This is what prompted Trump to say, hey, we are going to do a deal. We are going to do a deal. They have been doing a lot of things with us. They haven't given us access, but we are going to do. India is open to zero tariffs. So this kind of, both geopolitical as well as the economic was revved up. And clearly, Lindsey Graham has also played a significant role. Even today, he issued a statement, which is to say, India must help United States to end this Ukraine war because it is costing US money. It cannot afford money. So basically, it's saying that today, again, India must intervene. India is speaking, but is Russia going to listen? No. Already Zelensky has made a statement that he's not prepared to listen either, to concede territories. So India has got itself into this geopolitical mess. Also, India probably misread the signals coming from the White House and the negotiators. India has also probably misread the significant influence that the Pakistanis have. They thought by sending this delegation and making their case, they have won the battle. Unfortunately, I don't think so, Sriji. So we are in a soup, and this has prompted, Modi to kind of say, okay, I will accept Wang Yi, and Wang Yi, we know who Wang Yi, Dr. Wang Yi is, the wolf diplomat, to come to India, and then he's accepted a visit to go to as part of the SCO summit to China. I mean, so the whole, not only the foreign policy is a little bit unraveling, but there's been a lot of misinterpretations, fake news, and a whole bunch of antagonistic position taken by some of the adversarial nations against India. But the most important point is Asif Munir's statement in Florida today, Asif Munir's presence in White House for the dinner, and this is what prompted Modi not to go to White House, recognizing Trump may force this particular meeting between him, which did not rub very well with Trump. And now Trump is playing all kinds of antics against India, and the hope is that we will get some resolution. This is based on all the work that's going on in US right now, Sriji.
Thank you so much, sir. Let's go to the next slide, please.
I think we covered this. Is foreign policy.
We have covered it. Yeah. So we also covered types of this. So the question here that we are asking is there a sign of desperation on part of India? In the sense that if America unravels, by the way, sir, before we do that, can we take a look at Rajnath Singh's speech, please?
Yeah.
जो भारत का विकास जितनी तेजी के साथ हो रहा है, उन्हें रास नहीं आ रहा है, उन्हें अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है। सबके बास तो हम हैं, भारत कैसे इतनी तेजी के साथ बढ़ रहा है। और बहुतों के द्वारा यह कोशिश की जा रही है कुछ ऐसा किया जाए ताकि भारत में भारतवासियों के हाथों से जो चीजें तैयार होती हैं वह दुनिया के देशों में जाएं तो उन देशों में बनने वाली चीजों से वह महंगी हो जाएं, ताकि भारत की धरती पर भारतवासियों के हाथों से बनी हुई चीजें जब महंगी हो जाएंगी तो दुनिया के लोग उसे नहीं खरीदेंगे। यह कोशिश की जा रही है। लेकिन बहनों भाइयों, भारत जितनी तेजी के साथ आगे बढ़ रहा है, मैं पूरे विश्वास के साथ कहता हूं कि भारत को अब दुनिया की कोई ताकत विश्व की एक बड़ी शक्ति बनने से रोक नहीं सकती है।
So to add to your point, so here Rajnath Singh has again reiterated, taken a jibe at Trump. So India is responding in a way that I think US will understand. The other thing doing the round, sir, this is something that I have picked up from different places, and we have given both links, viewers. One where in United States media is reporting that multiple companies that were supposed to sell arms to India have received pause notice from India. But from India side, there's a Department of Defense press statement saying that nothing of that nature has happened. Sir, your take on what is happening here, pausing US defense purchases?
No, I think that my take is very clear. There is no pause. Those equipment India needs, and I don't think they're going to pause. In fact, they will use that as a strategic kind of weapon to basically tell you wanted defense equipment to be bought from you. We did. And we did not cancel, because cancellation will go even worse in the eyes. But more important, India needs that equipment to mitigate the vulnerability against the Chinese in the high mountains, in the up north. But so all my sources kind of indicate, no, nothing of that ilk is taking place. That's number one, G. I think the other thing that we need to bring to bear here, okay, again, we have covered this in DGI over the last few weeks. Minister for Defense Rajnath Singh visited US had extensive discussions today as part of the 2+2, had extensive discussions, and he was very well received. And there was even more cooperation contemplated between the two countries. So there was, again, there's no animosity and ill will that was prevalent at that point of time, right? And similarly, between the Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Jaishankar. Okay, the only point that was, remember, Marco Rubio was the one who initiated in 2024 July, which we covered, a proposal to give India the most preferred status to combat the Chinese in the South China Sea and also in the should they attempt to do something in East China Sea, which is Taiwan. That was again discussions that took place, and that proposal was for want of Senate majority got stalled, but that proposal was again tabled. So there is nothing that points to the fact that things have gone the opposite way. The only issue seems to be that they somehow feel that this is United States, many in United States, especially in defense, in the Senate, notably Lindsey Graham, they feel that India has enough clout because of oil purchases and other things that it can make Russia come to some kind of a resolution in its war with Ukraine. This is where even Pakistan is a kind of a less contentious, but Pakistanis have been, they have been running their own version of the stories. And quite a few stories they use this magazine in India, Sree, which print. They use the magazine print to publish their all kinds of stories that is coming out. But be that as may. But I think India has got itself into, you asked a question which we didn't answer, is it in a little bit of a limbo? Now, I ask all of our viewers to kind of look at the top 10 trading partners. Okay, at stake is India's manufacturing. Okay, at stake is India's manufacturing. People are just simply calculating tariffs. When you look at the top 10 trading partners, only 3 to 4 countries buy manufactured products. Which are they? Number 1, United States. Pharmaceuticals, chemicals, mobile, electronics. 4 areas, the largest buyer. Then you have Japan. Then you have Korea. You have Germany. You have Netherlands. What does the other nations do? What does China do? Some Timbuktu. What does Russia do? Zulch. Some agro products. So when you look at the so-called partners, who are allies and friends of India, the consequence of economic GDP contraction is quite significant. Already there is a report that just got released, produced by Bloomberg, whether you accept it or not, that there is underweight of allocation of capital to Indian markets. Allocation of capital to Indian markets in lieu of the prevailing circumstances. What does it do? It takes the market cap of Indian market from around $7 trillion going further south. It's not very good for the Indian market if capital is pulled back. So you are in a situation where India is not sending the right signal by rushing to Russia and by rushing to China, especially this particular meet. And certainly the conversation with Lula, the Brazilian president, bilateral trade between India and Brazil is $20 billion. Nothing, almost nothing in terms of economic value. BRICS, only 3 countries, with whom India kind of does big trade. India does trade. Who are they? China, Russia, all net deficits. Then with Brazil, who are the other countries? African nations and maybe Saudis, UAE, who have recently joined. But with Saudis and UAE, Saudis again we run deficit, huge deficit, oil. UAE, at least there is trading. So there is a significant issue and significant impact should this kind of, there's $150 billion of trade plus $50 billion of investments coming in as a serious set of consequences. If this is not, and there's only one man who can set this on a right course. That is Prime Minister Modi ji. He's the only one who has the capacity to speak with Trump. There's one voice of wisdom that has come out from the wilderness, and that is from Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu has told, he met with the Indian ambassador in Israel. He said, I want to extend trade. I want to form bilateral partnership. I would not be advising Modi publicly, but I would be advising him privately that he has to sort out the matter with President Trump, and I will tell him how he can do it privately. So that is where we stand with regard to all these discussions. In the meanwhile, I have to mention, at least a couple of names, but the most important name that I have to mention is our good friend Al Mason. Al Mason, who is a very strong Trump ally and who was the former chairman of the Finance Committee during the 2020 elections, and plays a critical kind of a role in being a navigator on the US-India partnership, as well as Dr. Aghi, who runs the US-India partnership group. They both are working very hard behind the scenes in terms of patching up and getting this back on track. Similarly, 𝗟𝗡𝗙𝗥𝗏, the former CEO of the Kotak Bank, again has issued a statement which is to say some sanity, some negotiation, and this has to be reset. Otherwise, the GDP consequences are, notwithstanding all the political rhetoric that is going on and the social media rhetoric that is going on, India-US relationship is vital, and there is no kind of a matching partner in terms of substituting, especially given United States is the largest economy as we speak.
There's a lot of adverse feedback coming here that we both are basically telling Modi that he should be talking to Trump. What Modi wants to do is Modi's decision to make. All we are trying to tell you is the sequence of events that led up to what is happening. And I told you it's an alternative narrative. This is what we think happened. And you can see that Asim Munir is not somebody who just makes statements. Something is cooking in India. Again, he's going to do something. But you want to be able to parse the real news from what could be planted news. Viewers, don't look at this emotionally. It's what's in the best interest of India today. That's the decision that Modi has to make.
Yes,
I think that's what he's going to do. Yes, there are some rhetorics being done, but overall, he has been extremely mature. He hasn't taken pot shots at Trump or what Trump said. And then he has basically said that we are going to do what we are going to do, what's best for India. And viewers, take a look at a monologue I'm going to put out on oil purchases in the future, and you're in for a surprise. So do take a look at that. We have a lot of reference links to back up that research. That will be coming out soon. Take a look at that, especially India's purchases of crude from Russia. What is happening? Okay, so this is not something that like one point alone we are taking it and then we are trying to say, okay, this is what happened. It's going to debut at tomorrow at 6 a.m. on the oil purchases of India, whether India is in fact moving away from Russia. Take a look at that, okay? Because we are talking about 3 big refineries in India, and we have given you all the numbers also. So you'll be surprised to know what is going on. So the next thing is, what next is Trump going to dream up? See, Trump right now has got his swagger back a little bit, Sridhar Ji, because he has made EU sign up to whatever he wanted them to do. Now, Ursula is one of the most hated persons in Europe. They are hating her for doing this. Be that as it may, what is the next thing that Trump is going to levy on India? 100% tariffs? I mean, after some time, it becomes meaningless, right?
It is. I think that as I mentioned to you, there's only currently 3 strands of work in progress. I think people must shed Trump versus United States. Trump is temporary, but the relationship and partnership with United States is very important because both are democracies, both have capital markets, both have significant number of people employed, significant number of Indian Americans are in top positions. Maybe you have to do your own research and find out how many of the Fortune 500 companies have established significant and large footprint in India. Okay, some of the largest AI and data centers run by US companies are likely to be located in India. Okay, imagine the collateral consequences that could occur as a result of some irrational decisions that could happen. It's only in the recent times the investments have grown, most notably under Modi. Since 2014 to 2025, go back and study the direct investments, mostly into equities as well as into the private venture capital, private equity markets. Go and study the numbers, what Modi has done and what has not happened prior from 1947 to 2014. So this is a significant number. So this is about US-India strategic partnership. When you go to the airports in India, you don't see people flying into Beijing or Moscow. They're all flying into United States with the hope that there's a job and there is a betterment of life and they can do something as well for the India-US economic upliftment. So therefore, I think this is more about India-US rather than about President Trump. Even under Biden and Obama, when things were not in India's favor, India did reasonably well to navigate that win-win situation and move the agenda forward. I think this is what we are talking about. Trump is erratic. He's now talking about imposing levies on crypto, imposing levies on copper, steel, imposing levies on anything and everything that other rest of the world is accessing from United States. So he's not stopping here, and he's basically because two reasons. One, he says he needs to bring revenues in terms of funding some of the tax cuts and austerity programs that he is driving within US, and he has an accountability to his party. Second, I think that he is going to do everything possible to make sure that there is no threat to the US dollar from a stability point of view. He doesn't care whether people deal with any other currency between themselves. As far as US and some of the US allies are concerned, it'll only be US dollar. I think that's what he's working to.
Next one, please. So let's come to the other important topic, which is the 15th August meeting between Trump and Putin. And it is now rumored that even Zelensky might be there in Alaska, may not be as part of the meeting, but maybe, I don't know, to try and, converse with in case the thing looks promising and that they can actually get some sort of an agreement in place. Of course, it will have to be ratified by the parliament in Ukraine and all that good stuff. Your forecast on what's happening, sir?
Well, I think that basically the proposal that Putin has put to Trump is that they will retain the regions that they have taken, most notably the eastern part of Ukraine, Donbass, and including Zaporizhzhia, the nuclear plant. Remember that nuclear plant? Zaporizhzhia. And Donbass Donetsk region, and also they want to have no Kherson, which is a gateway into Crimea. So they want to preserve those positions. That's what Putin has told Trump, and then Trump has indicated to Zelensky he may have to give in some parts of Ukraine, for which he has responded saying, there is no way he is going to shed a piece of land. This is how geopolitics runs. Macron has come out and said there is no way Zelensky or Ukraine is going to part with the land. And this is exactly what they told Mr. Modi, which is to say, come and see whether you can negotiate something. So India has welcomed this particular meeting on the negotiations for a resolution. But I think this is where India and United States kind of probably align, which is namely to say, if Russia has taken some parts of the land, it's going to be very hard for them to concede, and if both parties stay on either side, there's nothing to negotiate. The war continues, and which is not good for anybody. So I don't expect anything to come out, Sree. I mean, every act of President Trump in terms of the most critical issues, well, take Hamas in Gaza. Israel is going to go in. They made it very clear. They're going to go in, but they're not going to occupy. They're going to make sure that they clean up the place, and they will put an Arab force in place which is not a threat to Israel. Take a look at Iran. The Iran situation is they will not put negotiations unless their nuclear installations are not a threat, and their enrichment is permitted under NPT type of a structure, which is not going to happen. Then what's happening in Russia and Ukraine? The same situation. So you don't have any resolution other than three little countries, Cambodia, Pakistan, and there's a third country I forgot, which says, President Trump must be given Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, other than that, I just don't see any resolution to any of these matters. I think President Trump should stick to his US policies and see what can he do to make US better, and particularly India. He has done deal with everybody. He has done deal only two big nations he has not done deal with. One is China and one is India.
Sridhar Ji, also I must tell our viewers from Monday onwards, the real effect of tariff increases are going to hit the US consumer. What has happened is, for the last month or so, the grocers, the retailers, all of them were eating up the difference and still keeping the price at the same level as before. But what has happened is, there's only so much you can do this. At some point, you're going to start losing money, especially in grocery business. The margin is 3%. Grocery business, like the grocery shop where you sell vegetables and produce, etc., the margin is 3%. There's not much room to work with. What I've heard is, from Monday onwards, expect between 15 to 50% increase in daily household items. So this is what India is waiting for. This is what China is waiting for the reality of Trump's talk to settle in amongst the American consumers, and then see what happens. Okay, so we are trying to keep it balanced, viewers. Some of you are really talking out of your emotion. Don't do that. Don't do that. Both countries need each other. We are trying to tell you that it's easy to get lost in this kind of fake news and old relationships being kindled to the wrong ends and things of that nature. Unless you have a reason on a voice of reason, it's difficult to solve some of these problems. So this week, expect fireworks from the US consumer. So that's going to happen. In fact, there could be also a movement in the stock market because of that. So let's just wait and see how it goes. Sir, we have a few questions. I think we'll just go to the questions now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And by the way, US debt has just crossed $37 trillion today. $37 trillion. Okay, questions, please. 𝗣𝗘𝗙𝗿. He said trade deals are around the corner. What happened? Well, we just told you what happened. I hope you understood that there are people who don't want these things to happen, and they will use every trick in the book. See, Pakistan can never rise to India's level, but they can try and drag India down, which is always the case. Sir, you wanted to add? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be answering it. You should be answering it.
No, I think you did a great thing. I think the other thing is, there's a lot of rhetoric in social media, lot of opinion writers. None of them have looked at any kind of data. Okay, any data. They're just simply going on, taking lot of positions, responding to the fake narratives. Many of them probably are employed by US corporations, or many of them are employed in corporations which are reliant on doing business with United States. So people must kind of take a deep breath and analyze all the data. Now, the question that the person asked is around the corner. Yes, around the corner is what everybody said. So something went wrong. We have tried to explain to you that what some of the misnarratives, incorrect narratives, and some kind of ego pulling between the two nations has brought the two countries to this unfortunate impasse.
We are I mean, we are not saying what Trump did was right. We are quite upset with what happened. But you have to understand what led up to this so that you don't repeat the same thing again. Next question, please. Thought Provocateur wants to know, India can't be a hostage to whims of retards in the United States.
Good. India doesn't need to be a hostage to the whims of retards. Perfect. That's a decision if you want to make. Great. Proceed. And then face the consequences.
Thought Provocateur, let me tell you something. 2, 3, 4 episodes ago, I had talked to Sridhar Ji and I said, sir, you know, China has pegged their renminbi to 7.75 to a US dollar. We all know China, its own official bank printing agency, prints 4 copies of each note. They think that those notes won't cross paths. So why isn't India pegging its rupee currency to say that, okay, with US, we are going to only take it at 70, 60, 100, whatever, one number for the next 3-4 years. We are not going to let it change. Why is India not doing that? And Sridhar Ji replied, it takes courage. Okay, so if whatever you are saying here, comments, if India does all these things, it needs to also plan for what would be the fallout of something of that nature. Cool heads need to prevail at this point of time to understand where things are headed, what are the current immediate compulsions for India, which is what Sridhar Ji is saying, that there is no way these defense purchases could be put on pause. A tit for tat feels good, yes, but even the fact that Modi did not respond with a comment also is a message that he's a mature politician. Remember, Trump is not a politician. He's a businessman who suddenly finds himself as a president in the White House. So there is a slight difference in the way he approaches things. You have to, understand the person and then react accordingly. Next question, please. Ravichandra Rao wants to know, what is the overall percentage of oil imports from Russia in India? Isn't that still 35%. Less than 1 month of 35%? Right.
35%. It has grown from 1.7% in FY financial year 2020 to 35.1% in 2025. Significant.
And okay, is it still less than 1 month of EU consumption?
No.
Why do we need to read between the lines when Trump wants open conversation?
Yeah, it's an open conversation. Of course, we don't need to. It's an open conversation that, Modi and Trump has had. Not all conversations can be open. Certain conversations are strategic. They remain, private between two leaders. This is the normal and conventional protocol that is followed. Everything everybody don't need to know.
Next one, please. Akshay Iyer, thank you so much. US democracy always backs dictators. Radicalism is indirectly in US gift to the world. Ayatollah was in France before 1979. US always backstabs.
Well, I think, look, one is geopolitics and second is economics. What we are talking about is not geopolitics. What we are talking about is economics. Bilateral trade, investment flows, markets, investments in India, job creation, strategic areas where United States and India have worked together. Remember, when Modi ji took power, India was nowhere. Today, at least in 6 sectors, the India-US cooperation has made India a huge manufacturing hub. What are they? Mobile is one of them. Pharmaceutical is one of them. Okay, chemicals is another. 3. Electronic appliances is another area. So you have, of course, IT services. Who is the largest provider of IT services for the past 25 years plus? India. So you are beginning to see both on manufacturing and the services side, it has benefited immensely, notwithstanding the fact some people would like to call US retards. Okay, it has not come with India being sucked into. There is immense benefit that has flown into the Indian economy. What percentage of GDP contribution has come from by virtue of capital flows? That has come from United States. There are only three countries: United States, Singapore, and Holland. And previously it used to be Mauritius, but some of them, at least a couple of them, Singapore and either direct or through US conduits, that investments flows through from a tax structuring point of view. But that's where the investments have come from, mentally retarded as they may be. But the story is, this has all immensely benefited, right? What is the level of Russian investment in India to create jobs? What is the level of Chinese investment to create jobs? What is the level of exports that the China is taking other than dumping? Okay, if you think this is all incorrect, then, accept where you want to go with the strategy that you want to prescribe to Mr. Modi ji.
Next question from Srinivas. Thank you so much, Srinivas. Hope India brings major structural reforms, tech, AI, chips, etc. We can't be content with just textiles, leather goods. Watershed moment for us. Srinivas, this is a good point. We talked about this on Thursday with the three good generals also. Reforms are the need of the hour. Also remember that there is a danger that US might get really pissed off with India and give the state-of-the-art arms and ammunition to Pakistan just to spite India. I don't think it will come to that. I don't think it will come to that. The businessman is trying to create chaos, and from that he thinks order is going to emerge. That's how I think Trump is approaching this whole thing. Game theory. So just think about that. But even today, if we start flowing in billions of rupees into reforms, it takes 10 to 15 to 20 years before you're going to get tangible benefits and actual data out of it. India has just got its first programming language. India has just got its first chip that is like a CPU, like an Intel CPU. And that needs to go through a lot of testing to make sure that it is compatible. It can run programs that people run. A lot of things like that have to happen. So there is still a fair amount of work to go before India. Putting the money is just the beginning. The results are not going to come out. It's not immediately that you're going to get the results out. It takes a long time. So next question, please. Ramchandran wants to know, any chance of India, EU and India-Canada free trade agreement moving faster this year to offset US tariffs impact?
Well, India-UK is done, and I think India-EU is almost on the verge of completion. But even combined India-EU, combined India-EU-UK is far, far, far less than the India-US bilateral trade, services, and investments. Okay. So therefore, India-US is pivotal, but India-EU will be done. India-Canada is a very small, insignificant portion. Not even India-Japan is important. India-Korea is important. India-ASEAN is important, where India can add kind of significant, value by virtue of exports. Okay. ASEAN is home to about 800 million people. Its combined economy is close to as high as India, which is about $4 trillion. I'm talking about the 10 ASEAN countries. Okay, so ASEAN, Japan, Korea, even Philippines, with whom Philippines is part of ASEAN. Korea, Japan, Taiwan, ASEAN, EU, UK would be a fairly good set of opportunities, especially for rejigging the manufacturing and, most important, creating an export industry.
Sir, we have some numbers in terms of what kind of investments have come in from these three countries we mentioned. Investment into India by the United States in the year 2023 was $60 billion. Investment into India from Russia is $1 to $20 billion, and Rosneft says USD is 20 billion. Actual FDI is $1.3 billion in 2024. That is Russia. Then with China has invested up to end of 2023, $3.2 billion. So these are the numbers, and these are estimated cumulative investments in India. So you can see that there's a big difference between Russia, China, and the United States. The United States is still the big premium investor. And, like I said, there is a fair amount of distance to go for India before it can say, okay, well, we don't need US anymore. Somewhere you have to agree to disagree, but at the same time agree to agree on something. We are not telling India you should accept this comment, this condition, this term, and all that. All we are trying to say is sit down and look at what is missing here. Somewhere somebody has missed something, and maybe that's what is the problem. That's what we are trying to explain, help explain here. Satya wants to know, Pranam sir, what top reforms India should take now and pass them as quick?
Well, I think that the first and foremost is that they are asking the reform should include opening up more investments into sectors where India wants to build resilience and domestic industry. People may have forgotten the PPP, private-public partnership, and India did extremely well. Somehow that policy seems to have taken a backseat, okay, where you are willing to bring, where you are promoting 20, 30, 40% of capital. In a reciprocal gesture, you will give them some tax concessions and give them preferred market positions. So unless India does and broadens this into sectors that people mentioned, quantum aid, quantum computing, into cybersecurity, into chips, into AI technologies, some of the largest investments happening in the world, including by companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, are in the areas of creating both power industry, because these are high consumption, high energy consumption industry, and as well as in creating large scale data centers to support the future growth emanating from this. Imagine, given the size of the Indian population, what type of capacity that India would require. This is where Google has, I think I'm told, investing somewhere close to $16 billion in Hyderabad, or in one of the Chandrababu Naidu's cities. I don't recall the name of the city.
Vizag, sir. I think it is Vizag, Visakhapatnam.
Okay, maybe Vizag. So the name. So one of those areas they are. Is it Vizag or Amaravati ji? Amaravati.
Sir, Amaravati doesn't have the base of entrepreneurs, sir. Vizag does.
Yeah. Okay, so they're building the largest AI data center outside of United States. So you require reforms to open up and allow not only access and capital, but benefits if it's going to generate significant amount of employment. All sectors have not seen reforms, and there has been a selective process. And India is also still a huge bureaucracy in terms of getting things done.
Yes. Next one, please. Thought provocateur, yes, we are ready for consequences. Enough blackmail. Would you like to answer, sir? I have an answer. Thought provocateur, every year, I'll give you actually a real-time example. Just last year, the last 365 days, 220,000 cars have entered the roads of Kovai. Sir, you and I drive through the streets of Coimbatore. Can you tell me how it's going to manage the extra traffic that's going to come from these cars?
I mean, and some of the showrooms are quite amazing in terms of the types of cars that are being sold.
Oh yeah. Coimbatore rolls in money, sir. My point in saying this is that demand is exploding for some of these cars, which means there is need for more energy. Where are you going to get the energy? Meaning like crude. Do we have enough storage capacity? Whether it is, to store crude, because as the demand increases, when there is a glut in the market and you want to store it, at a place. US, for example, has these huge caverns where they store all these things, which is called strategic reserve. Has
Yep.
India got a plan like that? Does India do that? You need to, because your consumption is going through the roof. The aspirational middle class in India wants not one car but two cars now. Maybe if they have already got two cars, they want three cars. Don't ask me where they're going to park them. That's a different question. But the aspiration is to have more cars. My point in saying all this is that you need to be able to plan this. And how are you going to do that? Next question,
Exactly.
please.
No, I think I also want to make one observation on the previous point, G. This particular point, which is, we covered this in our DGI program maybe 3-4 weeks ago. Before all this chaos set in, India was prepared to put $350 billion of investments into United States, a large chunk of it in the Alaskan region, basically to liquefy the natural gas that is going to be produced there, put it into storage containers and bring it across the Pacific into India. And India had committed. And this is where India was going with India-US negotiations. It's also conceivable there's a lot of vested interest, because in that same region, you got Korea, you got Qatar, you got UAE, you got even Japan planning to invest for the same source. So there's a lot of geopolitics and there's a lot of posturing and things go on. But lost in the din is India's commitment to invest that amount of money. Forget this retardedness and blackmail and so on. This is India negotiating with the United States.
Sir, I was right, sir. It is Vizag. It is in Visakhapatnam.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Matrix, for your super sticker. Thank you once again, Matrix. Matrix has a question. Thank you, Matrix. Indians need chill out, only emotional drama.
Thank you.
Next one. I don't know. I can't read this thing. Okay, H. Mishra.
Indian sectors are run by incompetent babus. Indian railway traffic is operated by non-tech kid who has never studied maths. True for all sectors. Well, despite that, India is now a $4 trillion economy. I'm sure it'll trundle along. A nation of 1.4 billion people. Only it requires a small percentage of them to rise above and make things happen.
Also, I don't know if I've told this before with you guys or not. Sridhar Ji has actually advised Modi Ji on a couple of projects in the early term, the first term. And he had other commitments, which is why he, took leave of that. I mean, Sridhar Ji is not somebody that you would say, okay, he's saying something because he's a... Come on, some of the comments are like, very harsh. Sorry. Okay, next question, please. Srinivas Kampampati wants to know, Namaste, we have caverns in Visakhapatnam and Mangalore. LPG and crude are stored in these caverns. Very good. Good to know.
Much larger capacity needed as India advances. Remember that India was at that point of time, about a $2 trillion economy. Today, it's a $4.2 trillion economy. To be a $10 trillion economy, the type of infrastructure that India requires is humongous.
Sir, another thing that is also going on is there's an offshore storage plant being brought now. This offshore storage plant is well inside the sea, but near the coast. And they are going to have pipes that are going to come inside and take it to the places. For example, if the thing is natural gas, it will go to a cylinder bottling place. If it is crude, it will go to the refinery. All this is being planned. A lot of things are in the pipeline. India is doing great in that respect. The question is, how many things is India going to be able to catch up with the United States? India is quite far behind in technology. That's what we are trying. I mean, we are talking about the worst case when US says absolutely nothing for you, go fly a kite. That sort of a situation where you have to pull yourself up on the brass tack. So you're going to say something. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that, all this requires investments. Okay. All this requires significant amount of investments. India still runs a manageable but well within budget deficit. India's budget is not a budget surplus. Okay. Unlike United States, India has no capacity to print money. Okay. India is reliant on investments, both public and private. And India is reliant on capital flows. A large chunk of the industry, most notably digital industry, has evolved through innovation and private capital investments called venture capital and private equity. So all these things, unless you are working with countries, which have the capacity, and Russia and China are BRICS nations, not one of them. Because nobody will tell you, because they keep pushing, de-dollarization, and BRICS. How much of investments we will do a show and tell you how much of investments BRICS countries have put in India to develop what? It can be a basket to kind of mitigate what you call American hegemony, but does it translate into investments? The BRICS was coined by the Goldman Sachs. I forget the former chairman of Goldman Sachs, coined when they showed demonstrable growth as emerging economies. South Africa has completely gone woke and collapsed. Brazil has gone left. Less said, the better about Russia, and China is a powerful economy. It has got well-entrenched trade relationship with ASEAN and well-entrenched trade relationship with US, notwithstanding all these offsets. What is India's counter?
All right, sir. Thank you so much. And that brings us to a close of today's program. We'll be back next Sunday. And I hope you like this program. And please forward it to your friends and share it with your friends and relatives. Look, we are trying to make you to think differently. It's not just, rah, 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 rah. Yes, what Trump said was wrong. Yes, we also said what Trump said was wrong. But how do you recover from this situation and come back with both people feeling that they have still got a win under their belt?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you. Listen to Nikki Haley, listen to John Bolton, and listen to 𝗟𝗡ci heç𝗲𝗏𝗏, what they have stated about what course correction is needed. This is from US, and this is from within the Trump hut.
Republican parties, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Namaste ji, and have a wonderful evening.